welcome back to Next Normal, to a fireside chat, currently only with Renée Amundsen. And first of all, Renée, happy International Women's Day. It's a great day, certainly. And the fireside chat title is How Merck Advanced Business Innovation to Improve Customer Centricity. But before we deep dive into the conversation, Renée, how are you?
Well, thank you, Dario. How are you?
It's okay. I mean, we are heading towards end of day one, which was an extraordinary day, and hopefully Mostafa can also join. So,
fingers crossed.
Fantastic. So let's start with our first question, which is we all know the last 24 months were extremely uncertain and demanding from the perspective of changing our traditional business models, right? So how did Merck accommodate to such new environment?
Yes, Dario, COVID definitely dramatically changed both the way that we work within the organization, but also the way that we engage with our customers. And now looking in retrospect, I think it's evident that sometimes a crisis can be an opportunity for positive changes as well. I think everybody was impressed to see how companies across sectors were so quickly adapting to new ways of working. And when it comes to staying connected with the HCP, when the pandemic hit, from a Merck perspective, we already had the omnichannel ecosystem in place. The channels were already activated, but like almost overnight, we had to, or we were forced to really leverage these channels. So people that maybe in the past, whether it's internal or external HCPs that had been hesitant, had no other choice but to take on and leverage these channels. So for me, the reflection is that the digital transformation and the adaptation really took a quantum leap. However, what we realized and that we had to accommodate that was having the omnichannel system activated and in place was only one part of it. But it was not enough. We really needed to focus our effort on change management and capability building for people to understand how do I really leverage the channels now that I have at hand. In parallel of working now with the here and now and the change management, we also started to early on put a lens on the future, because I think we all realize we will never go back to the same model as pre-COVID. So we started the discussions and the work on like what would be the future engagement model and the North Star post the pandemic.
Thanks a lot, Renée. Next question, what were the lessons learned from COVID to Merck?
I think multiple lessons. Clearly the changes that was triggered by COVID was really a call to action for us to revisit our offerings to the HCPs based on their changing expectations. And a clear lesson as well, or an insight, was that the hybrid engagement model, where the virtual engagement is augmenting the face-to-face interactions, will definitely stay also for the future. But for us, what we realized is that there is no such thing as the omnichannel or the hybrid model. It's not a one-size-fits-all. This will be a constant evolution based on the changing preferences of the HCPs as well. And I will take an example. If we go back when the pandemic hit, there was a huge digital appetite. However, mid last year, we saw all of a sudden a digital fatigue. We saw the face-to-face interactions were picking up again. So the question is, of course, like, why did we reach this digital saturation point? And basically the answer is that the HCPs were bombarded with content through multiple channels from all pharma companies, and it was just too much to digest. And we saw in research as well that the satisfaction level was low because maybe the content wasn't even relevant for that individual HCP. So the magic the solution to this is, of course, personalization. So in the future desired state, we're in a position where we deliver value to the customers in terms of personalized, relevant scientific content in the right channel, at the right time, with the right frequency, based on a deep understanding of the HCP's preferences and behaviors. And this personalized approach will be enabled by advanced analytics, which will help us to translate data into meaningful insights. So we will move in the future much more towards a pull approach or a pull model, where we will meet the customer when they want to meet us and where they want to meet us.
Exactly. Fully agree, Renée. Next question, let's speak about business innovation. I think you're master in that field and segment, right? Can you briefly describe and touch on a couple of them and how you measure its impact?
Sure. Yeah, at Merck and especially Global Business Innovation, which I'm a part of, we're driving innovation at several fronts, and including leveraging advanced analytics in driving next best action. We're advancing the sophistication of our segmentation model by taking several segmentation dimensions into account, and also evolving towards modular content, just to mention a few of the novel approaches. And maybe to put the spotlight then on next best action. So next best action is a novel solution that is providing the customer-facing teams with data-driven insights and recommendation, which is informing their engagement activities. And to your point about measuring, to measure really the impact, we are applying a methodology called A/B testing. It means that both groups will receive the suggestions on what actions to take on with the HCPs, but only one of them will follow the recommendation. So really what you have at hand is a control arm. So you can clearly demonstrate the impact of the new approach. So this is something we in general apply in our approaches when we do pilots or experiments, that we define leading and lagging indicators as well as impact tracking to clearly demonstrate value of a novel approach, not to do things just because they're fancy or just because it's digital. It's all about providing or giving impact and adding value to the customer.
That's a very good point. Purpose above everything, right?
Yeah.
My last question, what are the challenges to anticipate along the journey of business transformation and innovation?
Yeah. It's a very good question. And actually, I think there's a lot of similarities across the industry. But my reflections is that it's important to acknowledge that a digital transformation is so much more complex and broader than just the technical enablement. So just having the channels in place doesn't do the magic. So in the initial state, that helps us stay connected with the HCPs. But to be successful in the digital transformation, the key, and which is also the most challenging one, is the change management, which I already touched upon. It requires the right skill set, the right mindset, alongside with the right tool set. And that touches on evolution of key roles in the operating model. We need to change and adapt our ways of working. It requires reskilling of the organization, and also internalization of new capabilities needed to support the future model. So from an organizational standpoint, it really requires a growth mindset that you constantly need to work on further shaping and fine-tuning your approaches, because what got us here will not for sure get us there. And where I see most pharma companies struggle, what the pain points currently are, is to move from being successful in piloting and experiments in personalized approaches to fully scale it across the organization. The second point is the capability building. And the third point is the internalization of new capabilities needed to support the model. Maybe earlier that kind of capability was supported by external vendors, but now the model requires that we internalize the know-how.
Fantastic, Renée. Really enjoyed this fireside chat. I learned really a lot, and also this session will be published on our official YouTube channel. Plus, by the way, to our audience, just today we released the interview with you in our Next Talk section because you are certainly an inspiring leader. So again, thanks a lot, and hopefully to see you one day in person as well.
Thank you, Dario. It was a pleasure being here.
Thank you very much. Take care. Bye.
Bye.